Well, let's see what Riot's cooking up for next patch. ADC. We've been hearing a lot of discussion around the state of ADC. Okay, that's me and Baus, right? The strong state of supports prevents us from buffing them heavily and returning to a bot meta. Okay. So they're basically just saying what I said. You can't buff ADC because bot lane becomes too OP, you have to nerf support first. Cool. Can't complain. Crit items are getting some buffs to make them more competitive versus on-hit and lethality. I think that's a good change. I agree that crit items are the most underwhelming part about ADC as a class. We're still on continuous pursuit of trying to improve the satisfaction of the role for especially regular play without sending the power level through the roof in the hands of coordinated teams. Yeah, so they're saying that they're trying to they're still, trying to think what to do to make the role more satisfying for an average player in solo queue without making ADC OP in higher levels. There are some other changes this patch to decrease the snowballiness of the early game, which should help also with early fills. Supports. Meanwhile, supports are getting some nerfs through gold income decreases, further sly nerfs, and nerf to Dorn item by making them unique with support income items. God bless. These are really good news. Early lane snowballing. We're examining some of our long-held tuning of early game snowballing through epic item spikes, Surly Dirk, Hectic Alternator, etc. Okay, so I've done a reaction to those a few days ago. I think this is going to be a good change long term. I know a lot of people don't accept nerfs very positively, right? Like, people play like Assassin class and they see Serrated Dirk nerf and they're obviously immediately reacting negatively because it impacts their role and their characters they're playing, and the same goes for AP champs and AD champs and whatever. But I genuinely think that I genuinely think that these epic item spikes are too strong. Let me give an example. Certain champions in League of Legends can skip a mana item and rush immediately Hectic Alternator to get such a huge spike in lane where they do 2 spells on you and they half HP you. I can give you a good example of that. Hui. And Caps did it in LEC, I remember in a matchup. When Hui has a really good matchup mid lane, he legit just rushes Hectic Alternator because then he builds into Luden's Tempest anyway. Doesn't go Lost Chapter and spikes the Giga Heart, does one combo on you, you're half HP, does another combo, you're dead. It's too much power into these items. For the longest time, these items have been tuned to be pretty powerful on the first base to reward players who get ahead in lane. As players have gotten better at juicing their leads, we found this frequently lead to no fun gameplay states too quickly, where one party sits under tower after one bad play. Yeah, I mean, it's also fair to punish people. This just depends how they balance it, but I think some of these items genuinely deserve to be slightly nerfed. We're bringing these items down to be closer to 100% gold efficiency as a result to make playing from behind more realistic and for the head party to have repeated success. Now let me tell you something. When Riot nerfs early game components, this makes scaling better in the game. By a little bit, right? Let's say, a random example, maybe champion like Kassadin becomes better because Kassadin doesn't really rely on epic item spikes as much. He more relies on completing Malignance, spiking on that, completing Seraph, spiking on that. There's stuff like that. Void Grabs. As currently tuned, Void Grabs are a bit too tanky for head top laners to take. So I agree with this. So for those who don't know, when Void Grabs came into League, Riot's philosophy was that hey, we're giving an objective that maybe a top laner is gonna solo a Void Grab from time to time. This never happens. Why does that never happen? Because Void Grabs are too hard to do if you don't have jungle item, and they're too easy to do if you have jungle item. This objective, in my opinion, is poorly balanced because it's literally just jungler's objective. This is why in my IMO, when Season 14 came out, I think Void Grabs being in the game is just direct buff to jungle. As a result of some of these bot-focused buffs this patch, we're trying to make this a little easier to take ahead for top laners. Some of these changes will happen this patch and some in the next patch. Junglers find it easier to take Void Grabs because they find it easier to deal with Void Smites. Yes, because of jungle path item. It kills Void Smites completely. Cho'Gath, Ornn, Shen, Sion. I think all these champions probably deserve a buff. This is good. Each of these champions were intended to benefit from Sunfire and Heartstale changes, and the items are now in a reasonable spot, but the champions are still weak. I think Sunfire is still a weak item, personally, and I don't know about Heartstale. Cho'Gath is a Heartstale user, Ornn isn't, Shen probably isn't, Sion is, I guess. They're all receiving a small buff. We're hearing you on wanting more Ornn items. Good. I made a video on that too. Ornn has no items to upgrade. Making Ornn items is technically a lot more difficult than it seems, so the point that it is unsustainable to keep making them in the manner that we need a new system for making this. We've been thinking about how to go about this, but also don't want to leave Ornn weak while doing it. Hopefully we'll have some good news to share. Okay, good. So they're not giving new items to Ornn past the next patch, however they're gonna do it eventually. Okay, good. Galio. Galio builds have trended towards heavily glass cannon ever since new item changes. Riot, this is because of Lichbane. Seriously. Lichbane is so overtuned, and also like Moonspeed items are so overtuned, and Lichbane gives you a mess. We're making some changes to make Galio pattern more fun and more spellcast while being a bit more durable. While it's somewhat amusing to see the Colossus flying in, one-shotting and then getting out, it's undermining his champion fantasy. At the same time, we're trying to keep his mid powerful and not move his primary role to support. Okay, if it's viable. Okay, well, the changes that they made on PB are straight up nerfs to Galio. I think, here's my prediction. I think Riot will completely fuck up the Galio changes, and they're gonna have to buff him a patch or two after. Smolder. Yeah, I wonder what they're gonna do here. Champ is getting 50% pentas in pro play right now. We overshot on the Smolder changes last patch, underestimating how much of the E damage did in particular. That is true. E damage was completely overtuned before micro patch. Our hotfix nerfs put him back halfway, but we're looking to pull back a bit more, similar to his previous power level, but with Fizz improvement from the changes. Okay. He's certainly in frustrating territory right now, but we think that's mainly due to his power level exacerbating an otherwise unbalanceable champion. Alright, I don't know. I guess we'll see where it goes. I'm a bit of a hater of Smolder, because they made mid Smolder worse, and they made ADC Smolder better, and I kinda hate it. Alright, so what do we have? Let's see without the details, okay? So Cho'Gath, I think, shut up good. Champion is... Honestly, like, Champion is just suffering from being outdated a lot. His spells are so long to cast, and because there's so much Moonspeed in the game right now, you can't land Cho'Gath Q. Everyone and their mom buys Witness Boots, everyone and their mom buys Moonspeed items, everyone and their mom plays Fleet Footfork. This is the main problem with Cho'Gath. You can't land the Q. It's like the same problem Veigar has. You can't land the W. Too much Moonspeed in the game. I genuinely think Riot needs to nerf Moonspeed. I was thinking of making a video on this. Diana Jungle. I think it's okay. However, like, I'm not a big fan of Diana Jungle, personally. I think the champ is like... When it's too strong, it's just too easy to play and too OP. Not a fan. Ornn, I think good. Shen, I think good. Sion, I also think good. Tryndamere, I think good. I know Reddit is gonna cry that Tryndamere is getting buffed. Tryndamere is like one of the weakest champ in the game. I have no idea, like... People are just like... It's just a skill issue if they can't win against Tryndamere. It's so weak. The champ deserves like a big buff. Now, here's what my prediction. I think Riot is not gonna give him a big buff. I think they're gonna give him such a placebo buff. You know why? Because in the same patch, they're buffing Infinity, which Tryndamere probably doesn't even buy. Right? He wants to buy Navori. They're buffing Navori slightly, so that's a slight Tryndamere buff. They're buffing Lord Doms, but Tryndamere... I mean, he does buy Lord Doms sometimes. And Mortar, sure. Like, there's some item buffs for Trinda, but I think that champ deserves like big buffs and they're not gonna give it to him. Because of player base. Player base cries too much about Trinda. Then we have Briar. This is also something I predicted long time ago. I said Briar will probably be nerfed because in low elo she's just too good. You can check win rates in low elo. This champ is just god moding in from iron to plat or some shit like that. So doesn't surprise me. This is a low elo nerf. Gragas top lane. This is obviously a lie. They're not gonna only nerf Gragas on top. Every nerf that you do on Gragas on top is also gonna be mid lane nerf. Even if they nerf something like armor, they're gonna say, oh, armor isn't as impactful in mid lane, which may be true, but it's still gonna nerf Gragas mid. I think this is probably deserved. I think Gragas is right now OP on mid and top. Karma, mid. This is, again, primarily a low elo solo queue nerf. Karma mid and low elo is god tier, just like Briar. Senna ADC. Yeah, last patch Riot gave her a placebo nerf, which I flamed them for it. Hopefully this time they actually give her a real nerf. Smolder, well, we all know that's deserved. And Volibear, I think that's also deserved. I personally hate the way Riot has buffed Volibear. I don't think Volibear should be running as fast as he is with his Q. I think Volibear should be stronger when he gets on top of people. So, Volibear's strength, in my opinion, should be when he gets on top of people, he should be a good bruiser, a good duelist. Volibear's Shank should not be having a lot of move speed so he reaches champions that are supposed to kite him. Volibear's weakness should be getting kited. That's what I think. Galio adjustments, okay. Infinity Edge buffs, good. Navori buffs, okay. Lord Dom's buffs, questionable. I think Lord Dom's is a very scary item to buff. Mortar Reminder buff is also questionable. System nerfs Epic's item stat efficiency. I personally think it's a good thing, even though it actually nerfs my role because they're nerfing Finish Codex and Hectic Alternator. Soul Stitch Sly, this item is still the best support item apparently, so yeah, deserved. Support item gold income, God bless. Finally support getting nerfed. Void Grab is gonna give no heal. Void Grabs are gonna now heal instead of shielding, instead of having a shield, which means that, if I understand correctly, it means that bursting one is gonna be better, and AoEing all of them is gonna be worse, right? I think. So, champions that have AoE clear are probably gonna be slightly weaker doing Void Grabs. Also, this is a huge Ral nerf, because Ral will not delete the shields anymore from Void Grabs, because Void Grabs will heal. A single target champion like, let's say, Rengar, who doesn't have a lot of AoE abilities, probably will do Void Grab faster, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And then, one of my favorite changes of the patch, and I saw a lot of people crying about this, I saw a lot of people flaming the Riot Balance team. I saw so many comments on Twitter, flaming them for this, and I genuinely think it's such an amazing change. I've said this should have happened long time ago, which is making Dorn's items are not purchasable if you have a jungle item or if you have a support item. Because there's a chat in high elo where support buys a Dorn item level 1 to get really strong in lane. Such a good change. I love it. It's such a good change. And same goes for jungle items. I genuinely think Dorn's items should be exclusive to laners. I don't think jungle champions should be able to buy Dorn items. They're already giga strong early game. They shouldn't be abusing that. And the same goes for support. I honestly praise them for this change. And honestly, looking at the patch, while there could be more nerfs and could be slightly more buffs in the patch, I think it's another patch where they're doing a good job. Genuinely. I've always flamed Riot for doing nothing in the patches. When I read this patch, I actually praise them. They're buffing a lot of underwhelming champions, hopefully not placebo. They're again nerfing a lot of high elo problems and some of the low elo problems. Item changes are good. They're finally buffing ADC, right? Because me and Baus had to complain about it. And now they're immediately buffing them. Right? This is a good patch. Good job, Riot. Riot August on Twitter. Briar is too strong in lower MMR given how high her ban rate is. What? August? I don't think it's about ban rate. Right? I don't think it's about ban rate. Like, maybe it's like ban rate, sure, but it's also about win rate, right? Like, okay, ban rate is 18%, but he has a higher ban rate. Okay, but she's, okay. Bronze? 52, 22. I mean, yeah, her ban rate is actually kind of high. That is true. Okay, she does have the highest ban rate consistently. But I also think it's about win rate, right? Win rate is also looking really good. Okay, never mind. She actually does have a shit ton of ban rate. Never mind. Nerfing plus throwing a bone to experienced Briar players who want to cosplay Lee Sin. Q can now jump to wards. Ooh, okay. That's a cool mechanic. That's a really cool mechanic. W, bite healing based on damage dealt from 25 to 45 to 24 to 40. Okay, that's gonna be mainly a late game nerf. This is, I think, fine. Our damage will go down by 100 in late game. Okay, so these are mainly late game nerfs on Briar. This is gonna be 1 to 2 at least % win rate drop in lower MMR probably, yeah? Yeah, Briar is getting the low elo nerf treatment. Not much to say here.